بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, all our praise and our gratitude are due to Him, our Lord, the Creator, the Cherisher, the Sustainer. May His peace and blessing be upon all of His messengers, from Adam through Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and the seal of the messengers, Muhammad, and his pure and immaculate progeny and family, also his righteous companions. And may the peace and the love of God be with you and among you, my dear brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This reading is from Surah Al-Hashr, chapter 59, verses 2 through 4. هو الذي أخرج الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب من ديارهم لأول الحشر ما ظننتم أن يخرجوا وظنوا أنهم مانعتهم حصونهم من الله فأتاهم الله من حيث لم يحتسبوا وقذف في قلوبهم الرعب يخربون بيوتهم بأيديهم وأيدي المؤمنين فاعتبروا يا أولي الأبصار ولولا أن كتب الله عليهم الجلاء لعذبهم في الدنيا ولهم في الآخرة عذاب النار ذلك بأنهم شاقوا الله ورسوله ومن يشاق الله فإن الله شديد العقاب صدق الله العلي العظيم. How was the relationship between Prophet Muhammad and the people of Book in Medina? Obviously, when we read these verses in the Holy Quran, we see that there was a lot of tension between the Prophet and his community on the one hand, and the people of the Book on the other hand. A lot of skirmishes, encounters, rivalries. And we mentioned some of these encounters in the past. There were three tribes, Banu Qaynuqa', Banu Nadir, and Banu Qurayza. These were Jewish tribes in Medina and around Medina when Muhammad came. And there was a covenant between the Prophet and the Jewish tribes, stressing freedom of religion, freedom of worship. They don't have to convert to Islam. They would stay where they are, but they have to respect the rules and play by the book, play by the rules. They should not agitate. They should not side with the enemies of Muhammad, neither supply them with any money or weapon or economic support or political support. But unfortunately, some of these covenants were breached and broken, and they were not honored. And therefore, let's come to the first tribe, Banu Qaynuqa'. When Muhammad came to Medina, the three groups came to him. Banu Qaynuqa', Banu Qurayza, Banu Nadir. They said to him, Muhammad, what are you about? Tell us, what do you want to do? He said, I'm the messenger of God. And if you look at your own books, you will find my name and my description heralding my arrival. Look at your books, read your books. You will find me there. I'm not stranger. You can find me there. The leader of Bani Qaynuqa', by the name of Mukhayriq, he said, yes, he's right. This man is right. I can look at his description in my book. So he came to his community and he said, let's believe in him. But they did not support him. They did not respond to him. They said, we are not going to believe in him because we know his name is in the book, but just because of the race issue. He is from the descendants of Ishmael and not the descendants of Isaac. Just because of this reason. Not because he's dishonest, or he's a counterfeit, or he's not a real prophet. He is the real prophet of God. But he has a problem with his race. And God says race should not be an issue. Because at the end of the day, we are all the children of Adam and Eve. We are all from one father and one mother. Abraham is the patriarch. Abraham is the forefather and the great father and the grandfather of the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews. And these prophets are brothers, one family. Inna hadihi ummatukum ummatan wahida. This is one family. This is one group. You have to have a coalition between you, and cooperation and respect, not rivalry. But these things did not work, and still are not working. For a long time, it would not work. Why? Because there is something called dunya, and people are enchanted with this dunya. They don't see behind it. All what they see is this lower life. They are veiled from the akhirah, from the hereafter. They don't see behind this veil. Because the more you get enchanted to the dunya, you're going to get attached to it. And if you are attached to something, you would not let go. Do you see some kids when they, they carry their smartphones? They are attached to them. They don't even raise their head to look left or right. Even if there is a danger surrounding them, they don't see it. Because they are so much into this smartphone. And this smartphone is one of the metaphors, the examples of the dunya. Some people are attached to their smartphones, some people to the desk, some people to the seat, some people to animals, some people to gold, to jewelry, to land, to name, being a celebrity. These are the enchantments of the dunya. Which is the biggest danger that faces mankind. They don't see the truth. But if we get detached, we would be in a much better position to see what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, to distinguish between truth and falsehood. But we have to free ourselves first. So this is what he said to them. I'm just simply the messenger. I'm neither a king nor an emperor. I'm not wishing or desiring this dunya. I'm going to die. I have a message to deliver. That's it, period. Inni Rasulullahi ilaykum jamia. They said, okay, so what do you want from us? He said, nothing. I'm not going to force you to convert where you are. We are not for you, neither against you. ولا نعين عليك أحدا ولا نتعرض لأحد من أصحابك ولا تتعرض لنا. We would never support anyone against you, neither we will harass any of your companions, nor you will harass us. The Prophet said, fine, this is good. So he signed a book. He ordered a covenant to be written, a contract, okay, a peace accord, and then he signed it. وَكَتَبَ كِتَابًا أَلَّا يُعِينُ عَلَى رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. They would not support or aid anyone against the Prophet, neither his newly established state, لَا بِلِسَانٍ وَلَا يَدٍ وَلَا بِسِلَاحٍ وَلَا بِكِرَاءٍ. Neither with any hand, nor with a weapon, nor with animals, meaning horses, providing the army that fights against the Prophet. فِي السِّرِّ وَالْعَلَانِيَةِ. Neither in public nor in secret. لَا بِلَيْلٍ وَلَا بِنَهَارٍ. Neither during day nor the evening. وَاللَّهُ بِذَلِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدٌ. And Allah is the witness over this covenant. فَإِنْ فَعَلُوا. If they provoke against the Prophet or instigate an act of aggression against him, فرسول الله في حل من سفك دمائهم وسبي ذراريهم ونسائهم وأخذ أموالهم. In this case, the Prophet has the right of fighting against them, capturing their women and their children as war spoils and war booties. So they agreed. They agreed. So when they agreed and they went home, after the Battle of Badr, they were irritated. Muslims, they achieved victory in the Battle of Badr. So some of the people of the book were worried. This might happen to us too. We might get defeated and displaced from our land. So let's do something to defeat Muhammad. Let's do something. Let's be proactive. Let's do something about that. And this is, unfortunately, was not a wise decision. So the Prophet, when he realized that they are worried about him after the victory of Badr, he reached out to them first to calm them and to give them peace of mind. He gathered them in their market, Suq Bani Qaynuqa in Medina. They have a special market. So he went to them and he said, I'd love to meet with you all, men and women and families. So he addressed them. He said, Ya ma'shar Yahud, or the community of the Jewish or the Jews, I invite you to accept Islam here. Because I see the discomfort. I see the tension coming. I see the war erupting between us. So the best thing, because you have seen my description in your book, I'm not a false prophet. You have only to crush your ego and be righteous and think about the akhirah, the day after, you would accept me. So I invite you to accept Islam. They said to him, Oh Muhammad, you thought that you overcame and you defeated some inexperienced army of Quraysh in Badr, that we are the same. We are not the same. We are veterans of war. We can challenge you. So don't think that because you defeated Quraysh in Badr, you can defeat us too. Quraysh كانوا أغمارا لا يعرفون القتال. Quraysh were inexperienced. Aghmar means inexperienced. They did not know how to fight, but we know how to fight. إنك والله لو قاتلتنا لعرفت أننا نحن الناس وأنك لن تلقى مثلنا. If you confront us, you will find us to be the men, real men. And you would never find people like us in our bravery and our courage. The Quran came to say in Surah Al-Imran 12 and 13, قُلْ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَتُغْلَبُونَ وَتُحْشَرُونَ إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ وَبِئْسَ الْمِهَادُ قد كان لكم آية في فئتين التقتا فئة تقاتل في سبيل الله وأخرى كافرة يرونهم مثليهم رأي العين والله يؤيد بنصره من يشاء إن في ذلك لعبرة لأولي الألباب. Say to the people of book that look at the example before you of Quraysh, how they were strong, but they were fighting against God. And while their adversaries, who are the Muslims, they were not very much strong, but they were fighting for God, not against God, and how the smaller group defeated the bigger one, because God is determined to give victory to those that He loves. While they were in the midst of this debate, a Muslim lady went to buy some jewelry from a Jewish merchant in the Jewish market. While she was sitting there, a man comes, an irresponsible man, comes and he takes her dress from the bag and he removes it, and people looked at her with no cover and they started laughing. A Muslim man was passing by. He came to her defense. He killed that person who did this foolish act. As a result of that, He provoked the anger of the community in the market. They gathered around this Muslim guy and they killed him. So 2 people were killed, a Jew and a Muslim, because of this incident. The Prophet said, this is not good. We can't allow this to happen, because there will be a commotion and repercussion of this. And if I leave this and don't do anything about it, this will continue. And the conflict is going to continue, and as a result of that, we're going to see bloodshed. So the Prophet asked his people to go to their neighborhood of the people of the book, and he asked them that either, and the Quran said this to him in Surah Al-Anfal, وَإِمَّا تَخَافَنَّ مِنْ قَوْمٍ خِيَانَةً فَانْبِذْ إِلَيْهِمْ عَلَى سَوَاءٍ. If you feel treachery from those people, then throw back to them on term of equality. Be equal to them, be just to them. So the Prophet said, in this case, you cannot be among us, because these acts of provocation are continuing, and I cannot see this peaceful city to be turned into a war zone. So the Prophet asked them that we would not touch your women and your children, but give us your money and leave the city. And this siege lasted for 15 days. In these 15 days, they realized that they cannot live anymore in Medina. So at the end, they handed in their wealth to the Prophet, and they took their women and their children alive and safe, and they were sent into exile. Many of them, they moved north. Some of them, they settled in Khaybar, and others, they continued their journey to Syria, to a specific location called Adru'at. That was the first tribe. The second tribe, Banu Nadir, the Prophet went into their neighborhood to ask for some loan, because the Prophet needed some money to pay ransom. 2 non-Muslims were killed by mistake, unintentionally, by a Muslim, so the Prophet decided to give the ransom for these 2 dead. Since he did not have the money, he used to borrow money from the Jews. So he went to their neighborhood, and those were Bani Nadir, and he asked them for money, for help. They said, yes, sit here until we bring you the money. While the Prophet was sitting, they decided that since Muhammad is here with a few number of his companions, this is the right time to assassinate him and get rid of him and put an end to this saga. So they decided to go from the roof of the house and throw a huge rock on the Prophet. Immediately Jibreel came, giving this tip to the Prophet, that they're going to kill you, so move immediately. So the Prophet stood and he said, I have to go to Medina. He went to his masjid. The companions were astonished. They came after him, Ya Rasulullah, why did you leave? They were about to bring the money that you asked for. He said, no, they were about to throw a rock on me. And Jibreel informed me about their intention. And then they confessed about it, of course, later on. So the Prophet said, in this case, because of this act of treachery, then they have to leave Medina also. And also the story is mentioned in chapter 59, Surah Al-Hashr, verses 11 through 15. If you want to know the details of this incident, it is mentioned there. So the Prophet, he seized their area, and he said that we will destroy some palm trees just to frighten them, okay? And so they know we are serious. And here the Quran in Surah Al-Hashr says, chapter 59, in verse 5, مَا قَطَعْتُم مِّن لِينَةٍ. Lina in Arabic is the palm tree. So God says some of these palm trees that you destroyed, أو تركتموها قائمة, or you leave them safe, على أصولها فبإذن الله. This is with God's leave. وَلْيُخْزِيَ الْفَاسِقِينَ. So he will disgrace the aggressors. So the Prophet just wanted to frighten them because he did not want bloodshed. He did not want military confrontation between the Muslims and the Jews. He wanted to avoid this. He just wanted them to leave peacefully. So when they saw Muhammad is serious about this, they started demolishing their own properties. يُخْرِبُونَ بُيُوتَهُمْ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ وَأَيْدِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. So they left, and also he gave them the choice. Some of them were resettled in Khaybar, and some of them went all the way to Syria, to Sham. And of course, their departure from Medina was a funfair. They asked their women to beat the drums, and there was a music to show that they are victorious and they are leaving with honor and victory. Okay, no problem. But only few of them accepted Islam, and they stayed in Medina so to take care of their businesses and their properties. They did not want to lose their properties. So they were sent into exile. Now the third group, Bani Qurayza, they did something very dangerous. They made an alliance with the polytheists, the mushrikeen, and other pagan tribes to destroy the Prophet. And they provided them with a safe passage to enter Medina, because Medina was under siege. This is another story that we're going to discuss later on. The Battle of Khaybar, or the Ahzab. Medina was under siege. There were more than 10,000 fighters coming to destroy Muhammad and his city and his community. There were only one Jewish tribe left in Medina, Banu Qurayza, so they made a negotiation with them to open a gate for us so we can enter Medina. Unfortunately, the people of Book responded positively to that, and they cooperated with the polytheists, with the enemies of Muhammad, and Muhammad realized that they did this dangerous and heinous act. So after the defeat of the Ahzab, Muhammad came to them and he said, you are now liable for punishment. Because they had alliance with the Ansar, those Jews, they had alliance with the Ansar to defend each other. Muhammad here asked Sa'ad ibn Ma'ath, who was one of the Ansar, the helpers. He said, you decide about their fate. Sa'ad ibn Ma'ath, he was knowledgeable about the Old Testament. He said, if this thing happens in the Jewish community, if this violation takes place, according to the Jewish law, men have to be killed and women have to be taken captives, as well as children. And the money has to be taken away from them. So the Prophet accepted that. As a result of that, those people who chose to have a confrontational stand against Muhammad and his community were killed, and their women and children were taken captives. And this is one of the points of contention between Islam and Judaism that we must study further. And as a result of that, some of them accepted Islam and some of them did not. And until today, this is one of the controversial moments in the history of Islam, where some Orientalists and some researchers and some Islamophobes, they raise from time to time that Muhammad did not respect the covenant, while Muhammad made a covenant And he made it very clear, if these violations, serious violations take place, then the result are these. And they signed the contracts, and this is exactly what happened. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.